members. Giancarlo, I think I had an interview that John Favreau called you and said he wrote the role for you. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah. He said, I have good news and I have bad news. What do you want first? I said, I'll take the good news. And he said, I wrote a role for you. So what's the bad news? He said, we don't have any money to pay you. I said, wait, it's Disney. He said, yeah, but it's all going to the walls and the ceiling and the volume. And I said, okay, cool, I like you, I want to do it. We might be able to get you paid in the third or fourth season if there is one. You know, one of those deals. And is there anything you want? And that was my opening. I said, you know, I have to have a cape. He said, done, and it was a done deal.
That's it, have a cape. So what's a great Imperial boss without a cape? Did you get to work with the costume designers about the specific cape, or they gave it to you and you loved it?
No, we knew we were going to have it, and so they keep a lot of things from us as actors. We get there and we meet with costumes and we learn what it will actually look like and feel like. I put everything on, I kicked everyone out of the room, and I stood there in front of the mirror, my big chest and my wide shoulders, and I swung my cape around. I mean, you know, I said, I need this moment, please. Everyone leave.
Emily, also in The Mandalorian, what were the talks like with you about this character? And she's almost like a priest in a way, but also makes armor. What were those discussions like?
Well, my experience of getting the role was very different from these two gentlemen, because I just went in for another random audition, like many that I have, and knew so little about what it was. I knew that she was a Zen-like leader of a group of people, and that you wouldn't see her face. And I was, shortly after the audition, I was offered the part, but they still didn't really know, I think, what they were going to do with it. So it was sort of like, well, we would love you to be a part of this show that we can't tell you anything about. We don't really know how much we're going to use you. We don't really, as Giancarlo said, we don't really have any money to pay you, but do you want to do it? And I was like, yeah, I mean, maybe it's Star Wars, cool. And it wasn't until I was well into fittings that I started to get an idea of who she was, because I didn't get to talk to John or Dave until very close to when we started shooting. And I was kept very much in the dark, which is probably safer so that I wouldn't be killed. Because I still, you know, I'm still convinced there's just like a little drone with mouse ears following us at all times, ready to laser us. And I had a fitting where they were taking a cast of my torso at this place called Legacy Effects, and I was like, what is this? And they said, oh, you haven't seen the costume yet. Would you like to? And I was like, well, yeah. And then they showed me sketches of this amazing armor with, you know, the gold helmet and the fur, and she has a flair for fashion, clearly. And it just took my breath away, and that was really the first moment that I started to get an idea of the gravity of this character. But then it was still a while before I got to talk to anyone about her. But then, in talking with John and Dave, they referenced Kurosawa a lot, which was one of George Lucas's inspirations, and that helped so much, because then I just went back and I rewatched a lot of those movies to get a lot of the movement and just the feeling for it overall, and having those images was so helpful.
And then Natasha, your experience was very unique in that you were being brought on to play a character that already existed. We're going to translate from animation to live action. Did you know when you were auditioning what it was for? What was that like?
Not at all. I apologize if you've already heard the story, but I was in Atlanta and I was shooting a movie called Day Shift, and I just got, much like you, like just another audition. I got a tape in from Sarah Finn's office, which is usually Marvel, but this time it was some mysterious Favreau project, and it was a tape from where I used a scene from Top Gun, where I was playing Tom Cruise's character. So I was already like, okay, this is very confidential. And then I sent in a tape, had a call with Sarah Finn, and walked off set. I completely forgot about it. They didn't tell me anything for 2 or 3 weeks. I didn't really think about it, to be honest, because for my own sanity, I just don't think about anything I've sent off anymore until I get a response or don't get a response. And I was walking off set one day, and my team, there was like 9 missed calls on my phone from my entire team, and I'm like, I hope this is good news. It's one of 2 things. And my manager was like, have you seen The Mandalorian? And I, at the time, had not seen it. I got the role, had no idea what the role was, and didn't for another 3 months. I booked a role in an upcoming Star Wars show. That's all I knew. And then 3 months later, I flew back to LA, and I met with John and Dave, and I sat down, and Dave was like, so you're playing Sabine Wren. And I'm like, oh, okay, because no idea. So that was my story. Yeah.
I want to ask everyone about then taking what's on the page in the brief and then creating a character from it. And Natasha, I want to stay with you because unlike the others, this character already existed and had, you know, a story and a world and a performance. So how did you make it your own? What was that process like?
Well, I was cast, I think, almost a year before we started filming. So I had so much time to do my research. I had already seen the movies, but I watched everything, animation inclusive, in chronological story order, which I know is a little debatable for some people, but that's how I wanted to do it because I think as an actor, my priority was story for the character and not the order that it had been released in real life. But I watched everything, obviously I watched all of Rebels, and I tried to just strike this balance between catching the essence of the character but not copying it, because you need to allow room, you need to leave room for like the magic of whatever happens on the day to still happen, and you don't know what that will be yet. So it was like a very fine balance of doing the research and then still turning up to work every day and like looking for something new or something authentic or something that was like unique to that day of filming. So balance, yeah.
And we did have that on Rogue One with Gareth. We had an interesting thing. As everybody knows, there was a lot of reshoots on Rogue One. We shot, somebody asked me recently, how much did Gareth shoot? And how much did Tony Gilroy shoot? Percentage. And I said, well, Gareth shot about 135%. And then Tony shot an extra like 80. And then squeezed it into one movie. Our script was changing a lot. I don't know what was happening behind the scenes, but there were days when we would come to set where it would be like, wait a second, what are these pages? We're meeting. We've already met. And the lines are, we're meeting. They're like, oh, yes, right. And Gareth is so easygoing and so much heart. And he's just like, this is the new thing. You just go, okay, let's do it. And so we'd shoot that. We just had to put our faith in Gareth, and which was easy to do. And but it ended up making fun things happen. First, he let me improv a lot because also I was CGI. I was running around on stilts in my little CG, my mocap suit, and I can say a line. I can change my line every time. I don't have lips. I don't need to screw with my other actors. I need to be respectful of them and keep the scene what the scene is. But if there's a punchline or a line that basically just says, I don't like you, I can have a dozen lines that say, I don't like you. And there were a dozen lines with Jen or so. I was always, no one likes you. Flo said, no one likes you. When you come in the room, when you're out of the room, everyone talks about you. And then when you come in, they stop. And then when you leave, they start talking about you again. just like he was a petulant little boy. But one day, Diego Luna showed up on set with a cut lip with a bruise on it. And Gareth's like, oh no, what's that? And he's like, this thing that I had spent an hour putting on my lip because I get roughed up in that one scene. Oh no, that scene's gone. So now we're doing the scene where we're all in Jeddah, and we realize we got to get out of here. And somebody says, hey, Troy, bring those prisoners over here. And the stormtrooper and I go, yes, and this was all just for fun. Yes, these are prisoners that I'm taking to prison to imprison them. And it was just goofing around, and he put it in the movie. He starts to say something, and I say, silence, silence, prisoner. And Diego says, what if he hits me here? Because I don't want to go take off this fucking makeup. I just spent an hour putting it on. What if K2 hits me in the face? And that's why I have the thing. And so I hit him in the face. And I say, and there's a fresh one if you mouth off again. And Gareth put it in the movie.
I kind of want to end on that, but I also do want to hear, how has the fandom, real quickly, surprised you once you became part of the Star Wars family?
I mean, my first experience of Star Wars fans was a stadium of screaming people at Anaheim. So that was a gentle introduction into Star Wars, and I'm very, very grateful for it. That was my day one, so yeah, it doesn't get more intense or awesome than that.
Was you, Emily?
Well, I was there for that moment, and I remember, because you'd just been shooting for like a couple of weeks, and
Like 3 weeks,
yeah. And it was beautiful to see, because that was also, I mean, that was my first celebration, and it was, I mean, no, you can't, I don't think I ever could have expected any of this, because it is so alive and so joyful, and it continues to just surprise me and wash over me, and I get to see it anew, and it's such a beautiful thing. And it's you know, I being part of Supernatural, it's another incredible fandom, but Star Wars has been around for over 40 years now, so it's just like that many more people and that many more stories, and it's like a huge mythology of our time. It's one of the great stories of our time, and it's you guys are just absolutely incredible.
This was fabulous. You guys told such great stories. Thank you